Welcome to the Witness Business Podcast. Today on the show, we have Ben and Ariel Zvaifler with us. They invented a PupBox, which was featured on Shark Tank. You may have seen. They're doing a lot. We'll talk about it all, but first, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, we're happy to be here.
So, PupBox, right? It was on Shark Tank, big hit. Ultimately, I bet I'm going to spoil it now. It ultimately sold to Petco, but a lot of people see that sale and they're like, "Oh, big break! Lots of money probably made from this sale. Amazing story, amazing product. These are so lucky." But really, like, what I want to do with this episode is go way back to the beginning, right? So you guys got a puppy probably and said, you know what, there's a gap in the market. We need to do something. Tell us about how the idea formed, and then what were those first few maybe moments after the idea was formed that ultimately helped you create it into something and get up off the couch, if you will, and actually turn the idea into something.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, we started PupBox back in, I think it was 2014, so about 10 years ago now. And we were young. We were in our mid 20s, and so we had a lot less to lose. we were looking for something, leaving our corporate jobs and going off and doing something, the two of us. And at the time, Ariel had already had a company she was working on. She was a partner at, and it was in the pet industry. She had a company that sold fish aquarium products, so fish and exotic fish and coral, dry goods for fish tanks, stuff like that. And it was a super small market. So we were looking to she wanted to do something outside of fish, but pet industry was still interesting. And then at the time, like you said, we had just gotten our first pet. So we got our dog Maggie, who was a little golden doodle. And it was funny because we brought Maggie home, and then a week later we started taking down all of our fish tanks. We were
just take down our fish tanks.
We were just totally over the aquarium industry.
That is not true.
And we were excited about, getting into pet and into the dog space. And so we were first time pet owners. We really had no idea what we were doing. We had a puppy. We were trying to go through the process of crate training and potty training and finding all the right products and toys and treats. We really wanted to be like the best pet parents we could be, but we didn't know what we were doing at all. And so we were looking for a solution to kind of help walk us along. And we kind of were sitting on the couch, like you said, and talking about it. And we thought, it would be really cool if there was a company that walked you through this process of puppyhood. And that was like the very early stages of PupBox when we started thinking of this concept. And at the time, all of the subscription boxes were really big. So there was the Birch box and some of the really big ones were just becoming popular. And so we thought, this would be a really good delivery method for this concept that we had of, walking them through puppyhood, send them a monthly box that has toys, treats, training information that really walk them through the process of puppyhood. And so that was the idea, kind of came together. I think we're both entrepreneurial at heart. And so we just kind of started eating the elephant. I don't think we fully knew what we were getting into and how big it could possibly be when we started. But Ariel had a background in pet products, and we just started really buying products and putting them in boxes and trying to get orders and shipping to customers. And it was very small.
We started out with doing a Rocket Hub crowdfunding campaign.
We did crowdfunding campaign.
We made a video, and we sent it to all of our family and friends. And nobody bought it. It was really a grind to get just a couple sales. That was super fun. But it was something that we were really passionate about. We knew it was a good idea. And even though our family was not as supportive as we would hope, we knew it was a winning idea. So we just kept plowing forward.
So it sounds like you wouldn't have considered yourselves experts per se in the puppy space.
No. So yeah. I was an expert at the aquarium industry. So I knew everyone in the aquarium industry. I knew all the products. I know a lot about water and biology and all of that stuff. And we didn't know anything about being puppy owners. We weren't trainers. We didn't know anything about dog nutrition, but we also knew that nobody else did either. So we would try these toys and we tried this stuff from manufacturers, and they all kind of wasn't that great of product. So you go into a pet store and you don't know what you should get your dog because they'll tear the toy up in a second, or they won't like the treats. And so we thought,
or they'll eat the toy whole, which I've encountered.
Yeah, it's hard. Or we gave our dog I remember a treat, and then she threw up a couple of minutes later, and I looked into that. And so we just wanted to be the best we could be. And it was really hard to be the best because there was such different information out there.
And I mean, we were definitely not experts in puppy. We didn't know anything about puppies or dogs, but Ariel had a lot of experience in the pet industry, buying products, sourcing products. So like we had an idea of how to go out and place a wholesale order from a distributor or contact a manufacturer. And then I came from a background that had some experience in digital marketing and in online stuff. And so I think that back then we thought we knew a lot more than we actually did. And I think that's the case with a lot of early entrepreneurs. Like you think you know everything and you can do everything, and then you get into it and you realize how much you don't know. And then you end up learning so much along the way. And that's really what happened to us. And it was fortunate because, as Ariel said, we started super small, selling to family and friends. But we were able to kind of continue building this snowball, if you will. And we just learned so much along the way. And we got to go kind of a full lap around the track as we scaled the company, we sold the company, we worked internally at Petco to really build it into something bigger. And then we moved on to our next project, which we're working on now.
And I think a lot of it, my family, both my parents are entrepreneurs, and my dad has always pushed me to be an entrepreneur. And I remember we were talking about this, and BarkBox had just gotten big, and we had all the financials of BarkBox because they had published them or something. And so I talked to him about this daily, and he'd go, Ariel, your product isn't live yet, and so you lost $8,000 today. And $8,000 every day I talked to him, he'd tell me I lost some wild amount of money because we hadn't done anything. And he kept pushing us every single day to just get to market. And I think having him really definitely helped because I talked to him every day. So we did get support in that way. He didn't buy a box, but.
So you guys had some varying levels of support, someone pushing you to do it to the fullest degree. And then you create it, and that's like, hey, we could use your help. And then you end up proving the initial doubters wrong, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and it was neat because as we were living in LA at the time when we started the company. And when we first had the idea, we were engaged. We were about to get married. And so we kind of put it off because planning a wedding was hard. But right after we got married, we started really working on the project. And we started in a shipping container in the back of of a warehouse in LA. And the shipping container, it was this tiny little thing. And we had boxes and products, and we'd just spend nights just packing boxes and organizing. And we thought, wouldn't it be amazing if we lived in San Francisco and we were in an accelerator? Wouldn't that be amazing? And then we moved to San Francisco a few months later, and we actually got into an accelerator. We got into 500 startups, and that was huge. That was a dream come true for us because 500 startups, it's almost like going to business school, but for your company. So they take your company, they give you an investment, and you just work really hard on it for 4 months. And then you pitch your idea at the end. And so that was, when we first thought of PupBox, it was a really small idea, and we thought really tiny. And then when we moved to San Francisco, where the world is run, all these startups are there, our minds just expanded. And also with 500 startups, we realized what was possible and how we could make something much bigger than our original idea. And so I think moving there and being in that ecosystem was really big for us.
And I think like when you're getting a company started, it is about having, smaller milestones. You kind of just, a lot of startup life and building a startup is just about survival. So you just keep going, you keep pushing on. It's definitely a grind and a roller coaster, but you keep hitting these milestones and it pushes you forward to kind of the next milestone. And that's how it was for us. Again, we started small. We were selling everything online, getting customers here and there and wherever we could. And there were just some unlocks that we found. We started working with influencers, and that worked really well to get the word out. We started growing faster. We got into 500 startups. We raised some money, and tested new marketing channels, and some of them worked, some of them didn't, and that kind of pushed us to the next thing. And then we ended up going on Shark Tank, which helped as well.
So would you say that your move to San Francisco, that whole endeavor, would you say that there was more value initially in the connections that you made or the knowledge that you obtained? Like, what were your big takeaways and applications that you ran with from that experience?
I think we both say something different on this. For me, I would say that meeting other people who are driven, and not even that it was connections that are people that would help us. It was just being around that mindset of people who are just getting stuff done and solving really big problems. That was what was big for me. And then having the mentors that we had at 500 Startups was great. But I think Ben probably would say something different.
No, I think it was just great to be around kind of the startup community. I think every entrepreneur is different. We were very early on in our early 20s in our entrepreneurial journey. And so it worked really well for us because there was a lot of young people building startups in the Bay Area that we could kind of connect with, bounce ideas off of, and really see what was possible, see some of these companies go from inception to something that's very, very much bigger. And just being able to see it firsthand really makes you realize it's possible. So that's kind of a driving force in and of itself.
Yeah, we hadn't even thought about selling to Petco until I remember being on this downtown San Francisco and thinking, could you imagine if we sold to Petco? Wouldn't that be crazy? And we did. We sold. So every time we said one of those things and we thought of this wild idea, it actually came true. Every single one of them.
Spoke it into.
It just when we speak things, they just happen.
Yeah, not exactly. But
you guys need to buy a lottery ticket. It sounds like
no. He's making it seem a lot more serendipitous. I mean, it was a real grind.
Of course, it was a grind.
I think that's in hindsight's 2020. Especially when it's your first startup, you have no idea if it's going to work or what the outcome is going to be. I think now we're on our next big project. It's a little different because we have the hindsight to know, okay, it is possible. But when you're just starting a company and you're just kind of working towards that next thing, everything is just such a risk. You just don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or the next day. And so there are a lot of big dreams, and we were really lucky that, things lined up in our favor.
Yeah, there was a lot of luck. But it was very hard. Yeah, it was hard. We didn't know if we'd be going out of business that month or if we'd make rent we had nothing and we were putting everything on our credit cards. I felt like the richest poor person in the world. And, we had nothing and we really didn't know how we were going to pay rent the next month. And somehow we made it happen until we got bought by Petco.
It sounds like I want to talk about, because there was probably a turning point, and I want to address that. But I don't want to get lost. It sounds like, number one, I've heard the phrase, "You're the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most." So it sounds like that's true in your case. You guys had that 4-month period where you were just around the right people, motivating you to. Ultimately, that helped you turn your business into something that could ultimately sell to a company like Petco. Agree with that?
Yeah, I think the kind of the people you surround yourself are hugely important, and so I think that definitely helped.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, we were breaking up. We have friends that are not entrepreneurs as well, and we hang out with them and love them dearly too. But it is nice being around other entrepreneurs that are doing really big things. We have some friends that have businesses that have become unicorns that are huge, and we've seen people succeed and do great big things. So, and they're just normal people like us. Nobody's super special. We're all just people.
For sure. The other thing I wanna ask, let me see if I can gather my thoughts in a way that this sounds somewhat intelligent. It sounds a little bit like ignorance is bliss, right? Because you guys thought you knew what you were doing, and maybe if you knew what it actually took. So here's my thought, right? I was at Disney World recently, and my wife and I got line for the new Guardians of the Galaxy ride. We have kids, and so our kids were with Grandma and Grandpa, and we got line that we thought was going to be quick, and we thought we were like in the lightning lane, and they were like, no, it's probably like a 45-minute wait, and we were like, ooh, I don't know if we want to leave our kids with grandma and grandpa for that long. We're like, you know what? We're probably never going to get to do this again. Let's just do it. So we wait in this line. 45 minutes goes by, and it's clear we're nowhere near the front of this line. And then it was probably 2 hours before we finally got on this ride. And looking back, we were like, if we knew that it was 2 hours long, we would have never done this. And if that's true for business, right? Like, I'm trying to put a creative spin on this concept, but if you took, like, maybe you wouldn't have done it. But
I think we would have done
being
it.
Being a little bit naive, though, I think helped. Agree with that. That being naive to what the effort actually was helped you at least get started, and then, like you said, eat the elephant one bite at a time after that.
Yeah, I think it's a good analogy, and I think it's a good analogy, especially for young entrepreneurs. You see so many people starting companies when they're in their 20s or early 30s, and I think that has a lot to do with it. Is like, you don't know what you don't know. And in the same sense,
and nothing to lose.
And that's what I was going to say. In the same sense, the risk is a lot lower, right? You know, before we had kids, before we had a mortgage, we didn't have nearly as much risk, and so it's a lot easier. I don't know if it's easier. It's not easier, but you kind of have that mentality when you're younger, where it's like, well, let's just go after it and see if it works out, and you can do that. Whereas, you know, when you have kids and some things, you get held up by, well, what if it doesn't work? And that's a type of mentality that often will kill a startup, because it is a roller coaster, and you don't really know if it's going to work. It's very risky.
I think also the plan B makes a difference. It's like, for us, we graduated in 2008 from college. The job market was terrible. We had okay jobs, but the company that I was running was barely doing anything. You know, we weren't going to, the future was not looking great if we just stayed, you know, working for other people. I don't interview well. I didn't know, like, you know, no one's going to hire me. So if I'm going to make it, I'm going to have to make it on my own. And Ben would have been fine. But so our plan B was kind of like, it wasn't there. And so it was like, what else do we have to lose? I think once you have a corporate job, I mean, when we started our next company that we have now, we both had high paying corporate jobs. And leaving that and saying goodbye to a paycheck and benefits and all these things is way harder than saying goodbye to nothing. I mean, so I think people, when they're older, get caught up because you're comfortable and you have healthcare and all these other things. And when you're young, it's like, what do you have to live? You don't have anything, or at least we didn't.
So going back real quick to the very kind of early stages, I feel like if you enter a Google search for like puppy products or dog products, you have to wade through an ocean of different products that there are, right? So how did it go early on? You're procuring bulk orders to put together these boxes. Did you guys just like test all these different products with your puppy, saw what was worth it and what wasn't worth it? Because I'm just imagining you guys in your house and your living room is full of all these different products, and your puppy's just kind of like bobbing and weaving through all the different boxes of stuff. Like, how did that work early on, that you figured out what was worth it and what wasn't worth it to include in these boxes?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it was. We went to trade shows. Honestly, we went to there's a couple big pet trade shows. Ariel had done a lot of like trade show work with her previous business, and kind of knew that landscape. And so we ended up going to, you know, the two big pet shows every year. We'd meet every vendor that was there. We'd grab all the product samples. We'd test products, and we'd take a lot home, give them to our dog. And it was funny. I mean, at one of our first trade show, quality was really important to us, right? Because we were sourcing these products, procuring the best products for a specific stage of puppyhood. Whereas if you're an online retailer or a pet store, a lot of it's about price points. So it's like, I can move more volume if I'm selling a $4 plush toy, and the unit economics makes sense. But for us, that didn't work. If a dog destroyed a toy, then it would come back to us and we'd have to refund them, or
You'd lose a customer,
or they would churn out. And so we were standing in one booth, and there was this plush toy vendor, and Ariel was testing the quality, and she just ripped this plush toy in half that they had as like their display, and and she just handed it back to them, and she's like, "This isn't going to work for us." And it was a little awkward, but
I became known for that. So people would know, if they handed me a toy, I'm going to try to rip it, and if I rip it, you're done.
So we did a lot of product testing, and we had, we had influencers we sent products to. We had friends that had dogs, and we had some friends who had pit bulls and some friends who had a Maltese, and we'd send them out and try to find the best stuff. And our business was a little different than, say, a BarkBox or one of the other subscription boxes, because we weren't sampling products. We were specifically selecting kind of the best products for different age groups at that time. And so if we found a product that we really like, we could actually inventory it and use it for that same stage on an ongoing basis. So could develop kind of product loyalty.
Right. And we knew, so now I can look at a dog toy and I'll know how successful it will be or not based on just looking at it. And we wouldn't have to really test it that much because we could just know. But I think one of the things that also kept us making the right decision on products was we did our own customer service forever. In fact, it's still in-house. Even with the big corporation of Petco, there's still a PupBox team that just does the Petco customer service emails. And there's only a couple. What did I say?
The PupBox.
Yeah, PupBox team. And so we can actually hear people, complain about the product or tell us that they like it. And so being able to hear the customer every single day really helps.
So you guys talked about how initially you didn't have experience in this space. You had just gotten a puppy. And I'm looking at all the different facets that are included in the PupBox. So you've got training guides, you've got treats, toys, chews, and accessories. And obviously all of those are subcategorized. Did you start out with all of those in mind, or did you just kind of start to stepwise build those things into the portfolio of what you were providing? Because I imagine each one of those probably was a little bit time consuming in their own right.
No, we started off doing that. I mean, we every box had 5 products when we said, let's do 2 toys, 1 training treat in every box, an accessory in every box that matched that stage. So we kind of had it mapped out, and we had a big spreadsheet of kind of the categories of toys we wanted at each stage. Mm-hmm. And then we filled those categories with the best products. And if the product ran out, we'd have to source a new one. And so there was a lot of moving pieces, but that was kind of always the concept.
So about how much would you say you invested into this business in the early stages? If you even, it sounds like you're buying or sampling a lot of dog toys, a lot of treats, a lot of XYZ, and trying to find what. So did you guys spend just a ton of money on dog stuff in the early days to see what's viable to sell?
No.
I mean,
they
honestly,
would send us samples.
They would send us samples, and we were lucky because PupBox specifically, there was very limited barriers of entry for us. We could buy small quantities and get them in boxes and fulfill the customer need. So there wasn't a huge cash need for that business. And so we were really able to bootstrap it. We did raise some money, as Ariel mentioned, in San Francisco, and then when we went on Shark Tank. But for the first couple of years, or a year at least, we were really able to just bootstrap it with, some personal savings and the cash flow from customer sales. And so very different than our current business, which is a hardware business. So
there are some distributors in the pet industry. There are big distributors all over, and it's meant for retailers, and they can buy 2 or 3 or 6 of an item. So I signed up as a retailer, and I could order 2 of a product. Or 6 or 12. So it became, each one of my orders would be maybe $300 for the week or something. And so it wasn't too bad. And
so then
we charge people up front. So they would buy a year subscription up front. So that would kind of fund the.
That's helpful.
Not really supposed to do that, but we didn't know that at the time.
So now that you brought it up, let's talk about the Shark Tank, right? So super cool experience, I'm sure. Can you give us, I don't want to focus on this, but can you give us some insight as to what was that experience like? Were you nervous? It's the pitch of your life at the time, at least. So you guys feel come onto the show, and then we can get into maybe some details after that.
It was pretty awesome. I was 3 months pregnant, and I was really sick, and I was really scared to tell anybody that I was pregnant. So that added a whole nother level of stress. Because I thought that people, they would judge me if I was pregnant or not give us money or investment because of that, which now as a mother, I've realized how ridiculous that is. People still, they don't care if you're a mother. the times have changed. So, but it was a really cool experience. The sharks were really nice to us, and the producers were great. I mean, it was a very positive experience for us. It was fast.
You
It all
brought
happened very
them.
fast.
You brought them each a puppy, so of course they're going to be nice to you, right?
Yeah, exactly. That was our promise. We filmed like our pitch video that we submitted to them, and we said in the video, if you bring us on, we'll bring puppies into the tank with us. And that was definitely the hook that got us on the show. We had really cute golden retriever puppies. And so that makes for good TV, first of all. But I mean, we were definitely really nervous. I think we were both super nervous. The Shark Tank, it's kind of a black box. Even when you're in the process, they really don't let you know what's coming next or how long the next phase is or when you're going to air or when you're going to shoot, really any of it. And so we didn't actually get a call. We were there in LA. They said, you may be filming. We need you to meet with the producers, go through your pitch on call it a Tuesday. And they said, if everything goes well, you'll be pitching, Wednesday morning. You have to be ready at 5 a.m. or something ridiculous.
Hair and makeup ready, 5 a.m.
Yeah. And so we didn't get the call until the night before at about 11 p.m. that we were actually going to film the next morning. And so they really keep everything like very tight, which is infuriating, but also it
keeps it exciting.
It keeps it exciting. You don't have time to think too much. You just kind of do. And then, yeah, we went on and the pitch went really well. The sharks obviously were distracted with puppies and so didn't hear any of the unit economics or KPIs. And so they offered us a deal.
That is well said. So, Robert, I do want to ask. I think the deal went through with Robert.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, with
so
Shark Tank, they do have real due diligence, and so you pitch on the show. We were up there pitching for an hour. They cut it down to like 12. I think it was 11
minutes.
Yeah, somewhere around 10 minutes. And then after you film, you go into a diligence process like any other investor, where they go through your model and they go through everything. And so we went through that process with the Hirschvik team. We did end up taking an investment from them. And we then aired, which a lot of companies film and don't air. So that's great that we aired. And they then asked us to film an update as well. So we did an update a year later. And yeah, it was all around. It was a good experience. People have varying degrees of Shark Tank experience. For us, it was really, really positive. It's not for PupBox specifically. It didn't make the business. There's some products, I believe, that are really good Shark Tank products, things that are inexpensive, consumer products that you can just really quickly go on and buy on your phone. PupBox is very niche. It was specifically for puppy owners, which is, less than 10% of the entire dog population. And so it gave us a really nice boost in sales, but when that tapered off, it was like, okay, back to the drawing board. How are we going to find new marketing channels, reach puppy owners? And so we just kind of kept on grinding.
It was hard because we had expected the day we aired to be just sales. And so we had our friends over. We had a Shark Tank launch party. We had boosted our internet. We were ready to go with customer service, and it was crickets.
We did get a lot of orders.
We got like $10,000 worth of orders, I think, that night. Yeah. And we were expecting much, much more than that. And I was in tears, and I was just like, this is awful. And then the next day we got the same amount of sales, and the next day it was the same amount of sales. And that it kind of became our new normal, where we had this elevated sales because everyone doesn't watch TV at the same time anymore. It's all streaming. And so it comes out at different times and people will look at it and then buy later. And so I was expecting it all that night, and that didn't happen at all. We still get sales from Shark Tank when people see it. So that definitely, I wasn't expecting that.
So you got to deal with Robert. Can you give some insight into how that, so sales aside, using Shark Tank as an advertising platform, that's great too. But I want to talk specifically about Robert and maybe how he helped you as entrepreneurs or business grow. Specifically working with Robert, could you guys point to some things maybe that he said or advice?
I think each shark has a different thing they're good at. Robert is great at PR, and he has a team that you work with. So we didn't work with Robert specifically. We were offered to have phone calls with him, and we didn't really take them. We just kind of worked with his team, and they set us up, making sure we got on the news in different local places and have articles written up about us. And so he really helped a lot with our PR. Other sharks have have different strengths, and so that was his.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's a lot. It depends on the business. Obviously, we were an online business. Like, sharks can offer great introductions, especially for, if you're a B2B business or someone who focuses on larger orders or getting into retail. For us, it's like we just needed to get more customers online. So the PR was helpful, but there's no silver bullet, right? Like you got to keep trying things. It's not like one guy or one girl is going to step in and say and transform your business with a phone call or anything like that. It doesn't work that way. And so it was great to have the Hirschvik team kind of in our corner helping us out. They were really helpful right after we aired. They were helpful through kind of the due diligence process with Petco. And so we were glad to have them, but it definitely wasn't like we now have Robert as our CEO, president of PupBox. He didn't work in that role.
So you talked about Robert, his subspecialty or his real strength being the PR. Did you guys go into the pitch expecting to get a deal with a different shark than who you did, or were you rooting to?
I wouldn't say that's his expertise. That's one way that they helped us specifically. They likely help other companies in very different ways. That was just kind of how they were helpful for us. We were pretty open-minded coming in. We don't know what sharks are going to be on, so we didn't know who we would be pitching. But we knew Robert was a great partner. We knew that Damien had a lot of experience in the pet industry. We thought, it would be great to work with Lori because she has the QVC connections, and then Cuban's kind of the whale. Cuban's a god in the entrepreneur world. So we really wanted to get an offer from Cuban. He's the only one that didn't give us an offer. And then we ended up just taking the best offer that was on the table. So
he was really nice about it, though. He said, which they didn't show, but he was petting a puppy, and he said, I'm so sorry. I have not been paying attention at all. I've just been petting this puppy, and I don't really like subscription businesses, so I'm just going to say I'm out. But they made it very dramatic on the show, even though he was super nice about it, and he's just like, this is not my thing. But he really likes the puppy.
Who wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
So, Shark Tank happened. You guys boosted sales. Hopefully, you guys sold the business to Petco, right? So, can you kind of dive into those details? How long was it? How long were you guys in business? And then how? I guess how did the Petco sale come to pass? Did they seek you out? Were you guys hoping to exit? What was the?
Yeah, so we I think we had been in business for 3 years, maybe 4 years at the time.
3.
Yeah, 3. I think 3.
Which is a fast turnaround time.
Yeah, and so we were not expecting to sell the business, and we were looking to raise money. We were kind of at an inflection point where we had bootstrapped it, raised a tiny bit of money. But we were at this point where it's like, okay, we need to either raise a larger amount of money to go bigger. Subscription businesses do take a lot of money to scale. Or we need to make this, a smaller lifestyle brand and figure out how to be profitable and pay ourselves and everything else. And so we were at that inflection point, and we were looking at strategic investors as well as institutional, VCs, and we were in San Diego at the time. We had moved from the Bay Area back to San Diego. It's where I'm from originally. And we had just had our first daughter. And so we moved back to San Diego. Again, it was an inflection point for the company where we're like, we're still small enough to move. If we're going to take on funding and try to grow quickly, build a team, we need to kind of have our roots established. And so we moved back to San Diego, had a warehouse here, and Petco is headquartered here. And so it was really right place at the right time. They were looking to invest more in digital. They're a big brick and mortar retailer, and they want to build their digital footprint. And the way they wanted to do that was acquire some smaller companies, bring them in-house to grow and to feed off each other and to leverage the resources Petco had. And so I went in to pitch them and for investment. And essentially they said, you know what, we love this concept. Instead of investing, how about we just give you guys an offer to acquire you outright and bring you internally to continue to scale this business. And so again, right place at the right time. You have to survive long enough to get there, but I think it was lucky for us to be positioned well enough for it to all work out that way.
I think it's also worth mentioning that Ben has done thousands of pitches for PupBox, and he got no's for 99.9% of them.
I don't know about thousands, maybe several.
Hundreds?
500.
Okay. He's done.
Yeah,
when
no,
we were in
it's
San
not.
Francisco, he did a pitch almost every
It was
day.
not. It was not the first investor that we approached. That is for sure.
But it's definitely worth noting because you got so many no's, and it just became. I think 500 startups help with that because they would make you pitch, and then they'd tell you how awful you were, and then they'd pitch again the same day, and you just pitch and pitch and pitch and pitch. And so when we went on Shark Tank, we pitched so many times, we knew our numbers really well, we knew what we were talking about, and we'd gotten no's so much that we were pretty resilient. But for new entrepreneurs trying to start something, definitely expect to do a lot of pitches and get a lot of no's.
Yeah. And I mean, it really worked out well for us. You know, I remember walking out of that meeting, out of their corporate headquarters, which is, very big campus. We were working in some tiny little warehouse. So it was very different than what we were used to. And I remember calling Ariel and saying like, I think that actually went really well. They seem like, I think this might be going somewhere, because you never know. These things most likely don't pan out. So
you get all of the no's as you're walking through. Would you say that it was just a matter of the persistence to find that one yes, or would you attribute it more to kind of tweaking the pitch or tailoring the pitch as time went on based on what feedback you got from all the no's?
Yeah, I don't even think it's about the pitch, really. I think it's just about the business and where the business is. I think you just have to keep grinding it out, keep building traction, delivering a good product, getting more customers, and like servicing those customers as best you can. And that's how you build a business, right? And so as you build a business, more doors open. And if it wasn't them, it would have been someone else. I mean, after we were acquired, we worked, under Petco for several years, 3-4 years. And we really built PupBox up into, when we were acquired, it was still a pretty small company. And when we left, it was really a substantially sized business. And so it's just about keeping at it, doing what works, and delivering a better customer experience than your competitors. And I think if you can do that, then doors open.
Yeah.
I love that you said that, included that you got hundreds or thousands of no's, however many it is, we'll never know. But I think that's important for people to hear, because you mentioned an element of luck. And I will preach this every episode, every time it comes up. And you guys can't say this, and you can agree or disagree with me at the end. But, we talk about luck and getting lucky and at the right place at the right time. But ultimately, like, you were at the right place at the right time because of the work that you had up to that point, right? So we call it luck, but I think more than luck, it's probably like in golf, the saying is, the more I practice, the luckier I get, right? The more work, the more time you put in, the more opportunities there are to get lucky. Because ultimately, if you were in the right place, right time, with no product, then it's not for anybody, right? So would you guys kind of agree with that?
Yeah, totally. I think people like to say, oh, that was lucky. I think entrepreneurs see through that pretty quick if you've kind of lived it, because how much pain there is leading up to that point and how many emotional highs and lows there are. For every milestone or piece of progress you make, there's an equal amount of, man, this is going to be hard to overcome. And that happens, that continued to happen even after we sell the business. I mean, one of the most emotional times was when the night we actually signed the paperwork for the deal. I was like so beaten down by the due diligence and legal process of going through a full acquisition. I was not even excited about it. So it's really this, roller coaster of ups and downs. And so, yes, is there an element of luck involved? Sure. But like, you can say that about anything. It's about working hard enough and staying alive in order to get into the right position.
You have to be ready to receive the luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for there who may be big idea or thinks they have a big idea, and you guys, it sounds like have done it at least twice now, like had an idea without the world. Let's run with this. What would be like one piece of advice you'd give someone? Got an idea, I told my buddies about it. Next, what would you tell them? Maybe a step one.
I think you said it earlier. You got to get off the couch. Like I think ideas are. I think my mom always said ideas are cheap. You can find them in the gutter. Like everyone has ideas. There's ideas everywhere. It's about what you do with the idea. And so actually putting it into practice, getting customers, getting sales, getting the investment you need to run the business. Like those are the things that matter. And so you have to just get out there and build the product for it to be worth anything. I think, ideas are just ideas until they manifest themselves in something physical.
We always find it funny when people say, I have this idea, but don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
It's like, well, nobody's going to do it. It could be the best idea in the entire world, and nobody is going to do anything about it because people it's hard for people to get off the couch and do it. So we always share openly.
I hear all the time, oh, I had an idea and I sat on it too long and now somebody stole it. I'm like, nobody stole it. You just sat on the couch for too long.
Yeah.
You got to get up. If you had a really good idea, you thought you should have got off the couch and did something.
Yeah. And I also had someone tell me early on, if it's not already being done somewhere, it's probably not a good idea. And so it's really about taking ideas that are existing and making them better, making the product experience better, delivering a better product, delivering a better customer experience, because there's very few things that have never been done in some form or iteration. So I thought that was an interesting piece of advice. Like if somebody's not doing it, it's probably not worthwhile or it doesn't work.
I think the other thing is your employees and the people that work for you are really important and the most important piece of the puzzle, I think, and treating them with respect and treating them well and making sure they're happy is huge because then your customers are happy. And we had a very loyal team. We had no turnover with our team and we're really proud of that. The people that we worked all together. It wasn't like hierarchical. It's very, very good team. And I think that really helps. And I think a lot of startups don't treat their employees well sometimes. And it's a big detriment.
Well, unless Kyle, do you have any other thoughts before we get into our last segment?
No, I really wanted to, it's been teased a couple times already. Can you talk a little bit about, you made the sale and then you've transitioned into this next entrepreneurial endeavor. I'd love to hear about that real quick.
Yeah, we so after we sold to PupBox, we worked at Petco to continue building the business for several years. I was there for 3 years. I think Ariel was there for 4 years. And it gave us an opportunity to work in corporate America and work for other people. And I very quickly decided that's not what I want to do. I want to go out and do something else where I can work for myself and have the freedom to be my own boss. And water filtration was something that we had always been passionate about. We had always been water snobs. Ariel is very big into, a toxin-free home, especially with the kids. And we've always had different water filters over the, 10 plus years that we had been living together, and we hated all of them. And so when we left Petco, we were looking for the next thing to do. And the idea of water filtration just kept coming up. There's not good products out there that are consumer friendly. They're not smart. Everything else is being connected to your phone. The water filters don't have anything like that. That's a nest of water filters. And it was a perfect subscription business, right? We had just sold a subscription business and seen the power of building an annuity stream. And water filtration is a great annuity stream because there's filter replacements for a long time. And so we kind of put all these pieces together and we said, you know what? Water is a big industry, big problem to solve. Let's jump into it. And so we started our next company cloud water filters a couple years ago, and it's the flagship product is an under sink reverse osmosis system. It's smart. It connects to your phone, and it tracks water quality coming into the system, tracks filter performance, auto ships all of your replacement filters when you need them versus some arbitrary timeline. And then we really redesigned what a water filter should look like and how it should function. So it's much easier to install, easier to replace the filters. And we really just ended up building the product that we wanted under our sink filtering our water. And we launched last year in 2023, and it's going really well. We have, approaching 700 customers and growing every day.
I'm thinking diving into this and saving maybe a future episode, because there's probably a lot there that I'd love to hear about. How were your thoughts?
Oh, I just was to say congratulations on getting that started. And the good news is you just got to make your pitch, and I'm not even going to tell you no. So, so one pitch that you don't get to hear bad feedback or anything like that at all. I love to hear what you guys are doing. So just kind
I'm
of
going to be looking for your order now that you said that. I'm going to be keeping an eye out.
He's going to be
where
your mouth is.
Yeah, I will do it too, because that's actually something that my wife and I have talked about. That is not hyperbole. That's real. So you can expect it.
I don't want to dive into that. I'm interested, maybe like we can look at times later, but I do want to talk about that. I think that I have so many questions about everything. Just in such a 2-minute, time frame, you did a lot of stuff that I was like, well, how do you do that? How do you do that? So I'd love to maybe do this again and maybe talk specifically about that. There's so many. I'm sure there are a lot of people listening. Well, how do you create a product like that when you're not an expert?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like
technologically,
you don't know what you don't know. I think
yeah.
Someone smart or really stupid said that before, but it was the same thing going into this. We had sold our previous company, built it up something substantial. We were really happy with all of our accomplishments. Then we get into this, and it's a whole different bag of tricks. Building a hardware product that has connectivity. Much more expensive to buy inventory, had to raise a lot of money to get here. And so it was, a learning experience in and of itself. So happy to talk about it on another episode.
Yeah, this one is harder. It's a much harder business.
Hardware is hard. That's what the saying is.
Hardware and technology, wire, sounds like Bluetooth or something, like Wi-Fi connection. Yeah. So I'm sure there's lots of good things to talk about. Well, thanks, guys, first of all, for being on this. Well, maybe I'll reach out in the coming weeks, maybe to talk about cloud water filters. But for this episode, we've got a question, or I guess it's we call it like our listener question segment. So we've got a question to kind of close this out. How you got that one?
Yeah, so for all the listeners that have any questions about upcoming interviews, send in your questions to kyle@witnessbusiness.com. So this week's listener question came in, and they clearly knew what you had done before, and they said that they were looking for recommendations on PupBox products. So what was your ideal PupBox or your perfect PupBox of different products that you would have included? And I'm going to just go ahead and say, I'm assuming that it's one that does not tear in half.
I would have to say, the teething rings, pumpkin teething rings.
Well, it depends on the dog. It depends on what kind of.
It doesn't. I don't think so. I'd have to say that. What is that? Was it Wellington? Not Wellington.
I don't know.
Oh my gosh, what are the brands?
I've separated my mental capacity from dogs.
No, totally. I know nothing about anymore.
Cow hooves, teething rings, bully sticks. They're all like edible things, and squeaky spike balls. They're super cheap, and they are amazing, and they last. And what would be for plush toys? I'd have to say. My favorite plush toy would be, oh my gosh, what would be my favorite? Either Charming Pet or Zippy Paws have great, or a Pet Play have really great toys. All three of those brands.
dogs the squeakers out of those because that is my dog's like life goal for every.
But that's okay. Also, some toys it's fun to rip them up. So when you get a plush toy, you have to think of it as like eventually they will rip it up, and that's also part of the fun. So that's okay. But those ones last for a long time.
Well, I just appreciate your recall even after an extended period of time. Although I will say it sounds like one of you retained and one of you brain dumped pretty thoroughly, and that's okay too.
Well, I did all the product stuff. He never touched a product.
Okay.
But yeah, he did brain dump everything.
I always said our separation of duties is I got all the customers and she figured out ways to send shitty products and lose the customers. So
I made these. These are one of my favorite ones that I made. They're well, you can't see them probably on the podcast, but they're liver sprinkle treats, and I think that all treats should have some kind of either liver or meat in them. The pumpkin treats or any of those treats that don't have meat in them, it's like so many dogs don't like them, so I prefer when they have liver in them. So a lot of the PupBox branded treats, or all of the PupBox branded treats, will have some kind of meat or at least a liver product in them. Liver in them. Sorry.
You know, all you dog owners out there looking for some puppy treated dogs. There you have it.
Yeah.
Eat some liver in your. Ugh, it's gross for me to think about, but dogs love it.
It's delicious.
Well, guys, thanks again for being on the show. For hopefully to talking to you guys again soon about your newer venture, Clever Filters. But for now, we are very appreciative of everything you've shared with us. I'm sure this episode will be inspiring to many. So much appreciated.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys for having us. We had fun.